Welcome to Wellbeing at Work, where we explore ways that you can achieve greater success with greater ease.
I want to help you explore the topic of your professional energy. We often think of energy as the fuel we use to power our bodies, but I want you to consider yours in a different way. I hope you enjoy this episode and I'd love to hear your feedback. My email is liz@authenticadvancement.com. Helping us today is Maria Davis from Melbourne, Australia. Maria has made it her life's work to understand personal energy. She's a medical intuitive and a personal journey mentor, and she brings her own professional experiences to this conversation today. Maria worked for several years in government, you see, where she navigated those various challenges that you see in the bureaucratic system. She uses this knowledge to support her clients as they discover their unique energy pathways. Maria has a very practical approach which helps her clients to achieve more stability and balance and peace. Then they can go from this place of inner strength and move further into their success. So I'm delighted Maria is here to support us today.
So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Maria. Hi Maria.
Hello Liz.
It's great to have you here. Thanks so much for coming on.
Lovely to be here. It's always a joy to share stories.
Today we would like to talk about energy, and I thought it was wise perhaps to talk about what we aim for in terms of an optimal energy at work.
It is about peace and balance, and really now no one likes neutrality. Shall we go straight into it? No one likes like zzz. And sometimes peace, when we talk about peace, it almost feels like something we really want, and when we get it we don't recognize it, because peace is like it's a balance. It's a balance. It's like, but what we like is oscillation, because oscillation inspires us, but we don't like the peaks and troughs. So that's what I'd like. That's what I teach. That's what I guide. You know, when you're having a peak and trough, check in. Are you causing it? Is it something, is an expectation of yours that's causing it? Is it a disrupted expectation? Or is it someone else that's infused their energy into you? So you have a different vibe or a misalignment somewhere. So just check in if it's your stuff or someone else's stuff, just to be colloquial. But then check in and say, what would it take for me to have a brilliant day? What would it take for me to experience joy? And I think we get the answers.
So you say really quite simply that checking in is asking yourself the question, yes?
Yeah, and it's the sacredness of really that prompt and that nudge. It's like, what would it take? Because the underlying thing is, do I deserve it? So that's what we all work on, is deserving to be happy and joy. But that's a deeper perspective. But it's like just in that moment and just taking what comes, what would it take for me to experience joy? Is it something I'm just going to put it out there? I'm going to experience joy today. What? And then the ego will go, what? What does that mean? And then, you know, what would it take for me to experience joy? And just getting that curiosity going and navigating to a source, because sometimes we don't deserve it. You know, sometimes we're feeling like we don't deserve it, we don't trust it. But when we do, everyone around us experiences joy as well. It's like, it's that vibrational law. It's that law of attraction, if you like. And I'm not a big proponent of just the law of attraction, because I love it. But without the other laws, it doesn't work. So it's like, but how do we step out and step up and be consistent in showing up? And sure, I'm going to have down days, and just notice, you know, what's caused it. I'm going to have up days, like, okay, why am I so happy? Okay. And it's the swings, you know, but as long as it's not peaks and troughs, because that's when we get exhausted.
Oh, that's so true. I mean, I'm very much relating here, because peaks and troughs is something that I have experienced, and I've also come to the comfortable oscillating phase that you're talking about, which really is so much more effective, I find. I achieve so much more, and in a way which I feel is I suppose I want to say authentic, but I'm not sure about that word in this context, but in a way which I find is very much in alignment with what I want to do. So you're right. I was thinking about possible causes of peaks and troughs, which is where the discomfort lies. And from a personal perspective, one really, really key cause was a misalignment of values. In my example that I can give you very easily is where I found that management operated in a way which I found was with massive bias towards certain people. And it actually cut to my core. It was one of those core values I held, which I couldn't watch. And I actually left that role for that reason. That's the type of extreme trough, I would say, that you were referring to. So if we can do away with those things, which I managed to do, then, I think achievement comes. Your attention is then on achieving the role rather than on being uncomfortable with what's going on around you, I think.
Yeah, and like that's such a great point. And what did you said misaligned. You said something, and it was like, I want to say authentic. That's what you said, and you go authentic. And I do agree it's overused at the moment, but I do. That integrity is one of my number one values: connection, integrity, family. So I know that for me, and everyone, we're all the same but different. Everyone, we treat people the same, and that's my values. But having authenticity is about having, for me, and I love the essence of that word, it's about truth. Yeah, your truth, Liz, might be different to my truth, but it's respecting and everyone being allowed or having permission, because the societal narrative is all about shoulds and coulds, and corporate narratives are about that too. But what about if we all had the ability to have our truth?
Wow, that sounds fantastic. If we all could, in a large organisation with key performance indicators and targets and personalities and so on, I guess that's the challenge, or one of the challenges, isn't it? Managing all of those relationships and the tensions and so is it realistic for everybody to be living their truth in a large organisation?
I did not experience that either, but going back to what a good leader is, I have experienced exceptional leadership in my working life as someone who worked in the government and worked in corporate, and leadership. I've been researching leadership as well, and leadership, when one trusts themselves completely, without doubt, without question, and can hold the space for others to do the same, and give them permission to speak their truths, and work through the deviations in values and territory and cultural narratives. Now that's a big ask, but when that happens, is it simple? Yeah, it's about seeing the human and then seeing how the human can perform according to the expectations. And that's the formula is every human is different, but we're all the same. We all need to be seen, we all need to be loved, we all need to be acknowledged. And for a leader to hold that space, that's the quintessential element, essential part of success.
That was so eloquently put, Maria. I really honestly feel you've hit the nail on the head in terms of leadership and in terms of getting people, the best out of people.
Yeah, everyone, and I hold workshops, and I do leadership work, and there's some rules that we have as humans, that when we're speaking, we want to be listened to. There's some expectation that we're seen and we're connected to as well, energetically. It's that moment of, I guess it's that pride. Can we say pride? Pride is seen as it's seen as egoic, but it's not. It's essential for us to stand up. It's part of the confidence model. If you don't have pride in yourself, whether it be whatever is an element for you. For me, it's having my hair done. That's important to me. But is that superficial? No, it's an intrinsic need for me to be happy with what I look like, what I perceived as. Mm-hmm. So they're just some of the elements for me, and that could be superficial to someone else, but for me it's important. And you work out what's important for you. And I think I really love if we meet our own expectations, and everything else just falls into place. It's when we deny our expectations or deny our value system to fit in, that's when things go askew and our energy gets sort of like, it's almost like a permeation. It's almost like a diffusion of energy. You give it all away, like we talk about the power energy in the body. But when we're giving it away, when we're here, take it because I just want to fit in, but we want to know about you too. We all want to contribute too, and that's sort of a false contribution.
Giving away your power, that's a very common theme that's talked about a lot in terms of energy work and in terms of people recovering from challenges or from, the depths. Or can you perhaps give an example of giving energy away and how that could be remedied?
Well, one is noticing. A simple one is noticing. I'm just trying to think of an example because there's so many examples. And I think that it's a pattern. So one is noticing that you're not feeling quite okay with that one, or you might start to judge. It's like, or you might start to talk about people, or you might start to, it's sort of like lack of integrity within yourself. Like no one likes to talk about. Sometimes we need to debrief. What, that sort of thing. But the other times, but you want to notice when that's happening, because there's something that's not quite aligned with where you are, and the more you give that energy, the more you diffuse your own energy. It's okay to debrief, but I don't know about you, Liz, but I've been in rumination. My clients do rumination. They come up with the same thing over and over again, and it's not like a wheel. And that to me is an energy going nowhere. It's an energy it's a toxic energy that's contained within, but also it's that diffusion of power. You're losing your power every time you speak about that. But to debrief and get to the core of that, why it feels icky or why it feels powerless, because we've all felt powerless, we've all felt victim, but the idea is to notice, be mindful about it. And when you're mindful about it, you go, okay. That might go to the issue of, dad not picking you up from school, or, some sort of childhood issue. But we're not I'm not a psychologist. So it's like, okay, so what do we do about it? Well, one is, I say, awareness is the key. Once you're aware of where that energy is, and I'd like to give you a little practice. So if you're feeling misaligned, where is it? Because sometimes it's in the jaw. I'll tell you where it can be. There's a few places that come up a lot. So back of the neck, you've got a sore neck, sore shoulder, you've got a frog in your throat, and between the shoulder blades is another one. So there's, and then your gut, you go, ooh, and you'll be bloating. So that'll be bloating. So I always think bloating is like the frilled neck lizard. It's like, I need to protect myself. Yeah, and they're just a few things, you know, if you're getting headaches repeatedly or, you know, there's so many physical symptoms that come from that feeling that powerless. You know, we all need to, I really think it's a fundamental need for our spiritual and evolution, if I can say that. And spiritual evolution for me is finding the power, influence and leadership within yourself. That we are aware of the triggers. We are aware of when we're feeling a little yucky, you know, why? You know, yucky is probably not a good word, but, you know, yucky, it does feel yucky, right? But having said that, know that we're all addicted to struggle. That's how our societal narrative has gone. And it's a neurological fact. So you can go to Joe Dispenza's work to do that, to work that out. But it's like, you know, there's a lot of study attached to the karmic roles of wounds, and you know, there's a lot of work we can do with those, but in a leadership concept, and because there's a time management issue, we need to be really on top of it if we are in a leadership role, or if we're following a leader. Why am I feeling yucky? Where am I feeling it in the body? And Louise Hay's work is brilliant. You just go, okay, if you've got a sore shoulder, you've got a sore knee, you've got a sore hip, you've got a sore neck, go and check it out. It's great. There's no I in team, right? But there is a me. And we forget to hold ourselves sacred and put some boundaries around what we need as human beings, to trust both ourselves and outside. But it starts with self. So yeah, I agree. Everyone is their own leader. You know, the co-creator of that. But we forget it's not how we're raised. It's not how we're stimulated by the societal narratives and the undercurrent of energies that propel us forward, to inspire us. It does take a moment of pause to remember that.
Absolutely, Maria. I've looked the moment of pause. So I think there's a key there for people. What do we do in that moment of pause? And how do we make that into something that brings us to a new action that is going to be for our individual betterment?
Well, self-regulation, like if we want to talk about the vagus nerve and the central nervous system, self-regulation. So the physical body is the biggest barometer of the soul, which contributes to our values and spirit. So if we look at this, at self-regulating our response to stress, it's through the vagus nerve. So 3 big breaths regularly during the day will bring you back to alignment. And it's like, who breathes? Who really breathes these days? You know, I was a Pilates instructor, so a lot of breath work is missing in society. We do not breathe, and let me take a big breath now. And as soon as you say breathe, people remember. How can we forget to breathe? But everyone's in a hurry, so they take shallow breaths, and we get things, and then we get stressed because we don't have enough energy, and then our adrenals go into overload, and breathe. The other thing we can do, so that's one of the things. The vagus nerve is a very deep contribution to physical alignment and a de-stressor. So 3 big breaths in and out. So really notice, and it doesn't have to be fabricated or forced. It's just noticing. The other thing is really notice where your feet are on the ground. And I find that footwork is essential to really work out what the soul, so the body being the barometer of the soul. A lot of people that are stressed will have claws like that. You know, like their feet will be, they'll have issues with their feet, and most adults have issues with their feet. So, you know, check in. Is my heel on the ground? You know, am I grounded? Do I deserve support? Do I have support? You know, feet are a big telltale in your stresses as well. Yeah, they're 2 really basic ones. I only like basic, you know, because I don't like too complex. And really, the body is basic. You know, give it what it needs and it thrives. The heart and the soul is basic too. Listen to it and you fly. That's the inspiration. Freedom to choose is another value. It's a collective value that we have. So when choice is taken away, and this is, it's self-inflicted because it's choice by overwhelm, because I have to do that and I have to do that and I have to do that, oh, and I have to ask and someone else tells me that. We used to ask people, but now we just can Google. Like Google is a verb. Hello. You know, now we can Google, and it's like, yeah, that's causing a lot of overwhelm, and I think it's causing a lot of disruption in the energy field as well. And it's navigating to, you know, it's gone full circle, navigating to the truth.
How would you recommend that when your client acts when in overwhelm?
The overwhelm button is stop. You know, the overwhelm button is when you're feeling that you can't breathe, that your anxiety level is up, you can't make decisions, everyone is judging you or you are judging everyone else. Then pause. Go back to your basics. Breathe. Stop researching. And you could have a mudra. That could be your mudra. The mudra is a instant somatic reflection of where you are and a moment to pause. So I like little things that remind me to pause, especially if you're in overwhelm. If I'm working with clients, if I'm working with groups, I will say have something like, you might have a rock, like a rock. Could be, okay, oh my goodness, I'm going to go and hold that rock because it holds an activation. If you're in overwhelm and the wheels are turning and you can't sleep because that's, you know, the stresses are on, then you take a step back and you're in self-care. Self-care should be a priority. We know it's not because it's time management, but what are the non-negotiables? And especially because that's the sort of thing that leads to autoimmune disease, and it leads to lots of other illnesses as well. So it's a moment, it's catching yourself, it's that awareness. It's like, am I breathing? Am I, you know, when I'm not sleeping, what's causing me not to sleep? What are some of the things that I can do? Can I use essential oils? I like to crossbreed. So I use essential oils, and I use whatever Mother Earth bounty has given me, that's what I use. But whatever resonates with you, that's but breath work is amazing. 3 breaths.
So easy, Maria. It's with us all the time. It's, you know, any time we need it, we can use it. And I guess you can do it without people really noticing too. So in a public place or at work, you can take 3 breaths just consciously. And if I want to give you this one, if you're overwhelmed and you're in a meeting and you can't go into breath because you're too stressed, you know, sometimes we go, I just can't do it without falling, you know, or maybe that's just me. Bring your thumb and your middle finger together, and that accesses your heart space. It's a heart meridian, and just bring that together. And that centers you immediately. That is another good one, and I have used that one years ago. It worked beautifully. So I'm glad you brought that one up. Thank you.
Yeah, and the other one is just hand on high heart. You know, it's that come back. You know, and sometimes that's not appropriate, but this one's always appropriate.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Great. Good one for a meeting. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm all into good ones for meetings. We all have to ground. We all feel self-conscious. We all lack confidence at times. You know, what is confidence? It's this self-assessment. Hello. But you know, what is confidence? And it's those moments, and you know, check in with your feet, take a breath. They take 10 seconds and you're back.
And I can recall actually thinking back to my most challenging role, actually the one that I left. What I used to do to manage at the end of the day was go home and take a shower. And there's a Mother Nature offering, isn't it, water? Sounds a bit corny, I suppose, but I was reset. I could then get on with my family evening. It was wonderful, and start again the next day without a problem.
I'm sure there's some study that has been done on the reset of water. You know, it's I do a waterfall meditation with my groups, and we stand. It's that vision, and they've done science on visualization that it works. You know, they've got a whole science of what is it, neurotheology on the neurology of meditation and how it affects that pause, how it affects your whole body, spirit and soul. So it's the shower is a great reset. And how nice does it feel? It's like exactly. Let's all do things that feel good.
So those are some really, really helpful tips of things that you can do. The breathing, the noticing your feet. There are probably some other very, very simple things that you can do for yourself, which everyone apply to everyone actually. And the first one I think is to always assume the best in people. Initially go into a situation and assume that everything is fine and that everyone is there for the best reason. That gives you the best chance of everything being nicely balanced and come out well. Now, of course, we all know about good nourishment, about sleeping well, and topics like this I think we'll cover a little later in Wellbeing at Work, because they're quite broad topics. There's a lot that can be covered in each of those topics, and there are specialists for those types of things. But there's no doubt that applying some discipline around your nutrition and your sleep can support you. Also, another little thing is to be grateful for small things, and you know, whatever your thing is, it's great to appreciate the small things as you come across them.
You may be wondering how to make all of this work for you. And workplace training has taught you a disciplined approach to new practices. But here I want you to see how to work more in line with your inner compass, which means apply a bit of discernment to what you hear or what you see, what you choose to do, and really work with what resonates for you and just leave the rest. That's okay. So the 3 big breaths that Maria has shared with us as a technique for settling ourselves, I think we can potentially do that not only in extreme situations or situations of overwhelm, but maybe regularly, like the beginning of a day or something. Or what do you think, Maria?
I think your discipline is disciple to yourself, right? It's like, if it works, I would say try it out. Give it a go. 3 days minimum, 10 days, 40 days, whatever works for you. But within 3 days, you should notice a de-stressing element to it. And then you do it, in the morning and the night. And then I would do it, you know, sometimes I think whenever you have a coffee, take 3 breaths. You know, something that triggers you to remember. Whenever you drink water, like water for me was at red lights. You know, I would take a sip of water because I didn't drink enough water. So just things that are really practical. So definitely morning and night, it's easy to do then. And then maybe when you first sit at your desk, take 3 breaths. When you go into a meeting, take 3 breaths. When you have a coffee, take 3 breaths. It's not hard. It's something we should do anyway. And just decide. And you go tick, tick, tick. And a big incentive for me is when I tick. So, you know, it might be a cross for you, but, you know, if you make a plan and you stick to it. But I do like to see the results of my work. And if it's working, then it becomes a habit and you are inspired to continue it.
Okay, so now we say we've done some implementation and we're at the celebration stage. This can be a bit tricky, a bit challenging because we're not very well used to praising ourselves. We'll praise other people, not so much ourselves. Take it from me, you will really shift up your life and your professional successes if you gift to yourself some reward and acknowledgement for what you do, for what you achieve, whether it's seen as a successful outcome or a learning outcome, whether it's a large effort or a small effort. The more you practice this, the more you will shift up your positive experience.
I think the celebration of what we've done is important. How do you feel about celebration?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, the big ticks for me is a celebration to see that I've accomplished something that I've set out to do, that I've committed to do, that I've been disciplined to do. That's a celebration to me too. And discipline to me is not, like discipline used to be a punishment, but discipline is disciple to myself. You know, that's been reframed for me. And I know if it's a benefit for me, change is not something we like. There is resistance that comes up. We love newness, but we don't like change, and transformation requires change. So I love to keep the newness in it. I love to keep the disciple to self, so sacred self, and then I love to review and celebrate. So it's like, look at me, I did it for 10 days, yay, go me. Now, then you forget, you go, oh, I haven't done that for ages. But you've done something else, you know, like be curious. There's so many practices out there that you can do. Be curious. I'm just giving you simple, practical and doable. But definitely you can do yoga, you can do Pilates, you can do walking, you can sit in bed, you can have more sleep, you can play with your dog, you can play with your children, you can go out to the park, go and play. You know, play. It's be curious. That's my constant. And that works. Being curious and no judgment.
And what you just did when you said you celebrated, you said, yay, me, and your whole energy shifted and lifted. And I saw it and I felt it. and that's,
yeah.
That's what I think can be so very powerful. And actually noticing then, that's what I was hoping you'd do this, noticing when that happens, how you feel at that higher level of excitement and joy. The more we do of that, the better it is for our physical health. And I dare say we know this, but it's nice to be reminded to notice these things and try and get them into your day as much.
Yeah.
So,
you know, when you're feeling a little off, you're not doing that. When you're feeling like, I haven't played. Oh, I haven't, you know, gone to the movies. You know, whatever floats your boat, whatever you like to do.
I'd just like to recap very slightly on some of the things that you have offered us, which I think really are supportive to women in particular. One was your comment that the best thing you can do for yourself is navigate your life and yourself to a place of trust, because this is talking about you and it's about supporting you, because you are central to your own life. Other people will try to help you, but they must be central to their own lives, and each individual can only really be the core support for themselves. So that's the first thing, navigating to your own place of trust is a really essential piece of advice, I think, that you've given us. And then part of that, to meet our personal expectations, because you are set as you are when you come into this world, and through your experiences to a point, you are who you are, and if you're working out of alignment, this is not comfortable for you, nor is it good for you as an ongoing thing. It is possible to be out of alignment for a while, and this is what corporate life expects of us and requires of us, and that's okay, particularly if you can see it as not yours, but as what you're doing for your corporate objective. And we can deal with that more into the future, but it's quite a big topic again. But I love in particular this one comment that you made, because it really hit home, that pride is essential, not egoistic. And particularly as women, are we not taught that we shouldn't be prideful or proud? So I think, thank you, Maria, for giving us permission to be proud, to deploy our pride. It is essential. I agree with you. And as for actions today, Maria suggests to you that you take notice, feel what's happening in your body, understand it for you. Specifically, take three big breaths. Deep breaths are so nurturing. And to notice your foot position and where your stresses lie. So I think that those things are three really good, helpful tips, not to mention the middle finger to the thumb. Are you working on anything in particular going forward that you're about to release, or where are you at with that?
I have a program called Journey to Self, and that is my program that cultivates power, influence and leadership within women. It's based on energy and energy practices, and it's based on getting to know yourself more at a deeper knowledge, because I think that depth of knowing, and that's where the wisdom comes in, and the confidence and the trust within. All of my work is based on trust. So how do you trust yourself more to walk the path?
Fantastic. And I guess that assessment tool can help us to understand where we're at in that journey. Is that so?
Absolutely. So the assessment tool is based on you being the focus. It's a very simple tool. It's look at it and what jumps out at you. And I've created a sacred circle, and there's an internal, intrinsic knowledge, and external. So what's affecting us from the inside out, and then what's affecting us from the outside in. And depending on what jumps out at you, that's the area that you need to work in. And it's a developmental tool for intuition and wisdom, and just that self-assessment that you can do daily. It's a PDF, and it's a download.
Oh, fantastic. So I shall, I'll attach it to this video if that's okay. I honestly really do appreciate your approach. Thanks, Maria. It's so easy and accessible. Thank you.
Very welcome. Honour.
So Maria, just as a parting comment, is there anything that you'd like to say to our audience today?
Thank you, Liz. I would like to say, when you trust yourself fully, in your truth, sit in your divine essence, everyone else has permission to do that too. Whether you're a leader, and know that you're a leader in your own life. You can be the influencer, and you can be the powerful one. But that's that trust, and it's a deep resonance to self and being sacred and sovereign, because when you do it, everyone else does it too.
Well, thank you so much for that, Maria. I really do love your work and your approach. So people, if you would like to follow more of Maria's work, just keep an eye on the link that will be coming up a little later. And I look forward to seeing you on the next Wellbeing at Work. This is Liz Hargraves. Until next time, stay well.